All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It means a lot. I haven't seen you besides Instagram or spoken to you in quite a while. I want to say a few years.
I know it's been a while since I moved away. It's good to
Since you,
see you though.
since you moved away, you left us all behind and just forgot about us. Just kidding.
No,
Uh,
no, no, not at all.
no, it's good that you did. Do you really quickly want to introduce yourself in your own words? Who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Aubrey Trujillo, and I'm an animal behaviorist. I've been doing
Mhm,
it for a couple of years now.
mhm,
I've actually had the pleasure of being able to work for Cesar Milan personally, working with his pack, doing his
mhm,
training with Caesar's Way, all of that rehabilitating along with
mhm.
actually being so blessed to being able to run my own business of doing it from home and being able to help like the community that way. So not only internally but externally, it's been amazing.
That's a big name for one, and that's also really cool, but also doesn't surprise me. I think one of my earliest memories of you is finding a picture of you with Kevin Bacon, right? So you're not a stranger to hanging
Right.
out with celebrities.
Definitely not. Definitely not. It's been a couple of years, definitely since that and some other people. But
Hmm.
I think it all goes back to the same, at the end of the day. They're just people just like we are. I mean, the name helps definitely, but I mean,
Uh-huh.
at the end of the day, it's really about the mission.
And it really is, right? So you've had quite the life, let's put it that way. You've done so many things and so many more even before I even met you, right? Um, we can get to all of that as well, but like you really seem to be doing a lot of really neat stuff. Um, and most of it has always kind of come full circle to either helping people or animals, right?
Right.
Um, part of can we get into that a little bit? What part of you kind of
Sure.
wants why that? What is it about you that wants to help?
You know, I think mostly because of this. And I mean,
Hmm.
I grew up probably not the most privileged child, right? My mom
Hmm.
had me pretty young at 16.
Hmm.
And I mean, we were the original Gilmore Girls. You
Hmm.
know, my
Hmm.
mom was like my best friend, but at the same time, I mean, we're both growing up, we're raising each other. And that
Yeah.
was hard. I mean, it took a lot. It took a lot. And I feel like if I'm having to go through that and learn, I've gone to school, had to
Hmm.
educate myself and almost rewire in a couple of ways. But
Hmm.
seeing how it helped me, it was like, why not be able to do this in a better way? So it's always been mostly
Hmm.
with like children, families,
Yeah.
animals, but
Hmm.
I feel like everything always starts at home and then it just
Mm.
gradually branches out. And if you need to cultivate something or change something, it's usually within the home or starting with you first.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think I've already seen that in your practice with not only just your own son, but also in because just a backstory, we met when you were was it Noah or Addison's teacher?
Originally, Addison, like
Addison,
Addie.
Addie. So she was little, right? And
Yeah,
um, so that was way back when, right? Addison's gonna be
they're
10
so
this year,
big.
right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
And your son Elijah, right?
Yeah, he's gonna be 9 this year.
He's gonna be
It's
9. Okay,
crazy,
so he
and
was
they've
younger. He was
yeah,
younger.
they're
Okay.
both about year 1 and 2.
Okay.
They're just over a year, both of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So
So you were her teacher. So I got to see you in the classroom and really kind of you had this well of knowledge and not you approached education, let's put it that way, from this very kind of holistic, really pure understanding. I mean, the kids, God help her, but like she loved you, right? And she still does. She still
yeah.
talks very highly of you, and the kids always remember you. But
Oh.
I mean, I don't think she likes a lot of people or a lot of my friends. There's personality differences, right? So, but I
She
think
has
you,
a very discerned taste, she has a discerning taste of her who she lets in her life.
well, she let me in, so I don't know what she was thinking there. Um, but no, the point I'm trying to make is the fact that like you're very approachable. You approach it from just like a very matter of fact, And I've never kind of felt like you didn't know what you were doing at any given time.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, I think, is that a level of confidence, or are you just like the smartest person in the world?
I really think it's
Mhm.
just really molding with the situation. I mean,
Gotcha.
sometimes there's been situations where it was like, I have never been in this
Mm,
situation. And it was like, I
mhm,
have to, like, you literally develop the skill of having to, think on the fly. You
mm,
really do, because you may
mhm,
have there were times I would have this great curriculum planned, and I was thinking, yes, the kids are going to love this, and this child is so into this, and this is how it's going to
mhm,
go. And you
mhm,
in your head. And then reality gets in, right? You're going in, you're implementing, and that's not what happens. And so
mm, mhm,
instead of having that control and having that stress and, oh my God, let's freak out, and this isn't what we're supposed to be doing, and having something so processed, rather than like taking a breath, saying, okay, you know what? This is what I had planned, but this is what their interest is in. Now,
mm,
let's take both of these and figure out kind of how to marry them in a beautiful way. Let's
yeah,
organically see what just happens. And then when you do that and you kind of
mhm,
relinquish that control and you give it to the students, they really do take part. And then you
mm.
can sometimes bring it back to what the intention was. And sometimes you're just like, you know what, it just didn't work. It just happens,
You just
you're just
take
like,
the L, yeah.
yeah, and you take the loss. But with that, it's always a learning curve. Like, it
Mm,
really is. And I think the most interesting thing about working just with people in general is just
mm,
always going back to basics and remembering to be empathetic, right? Like,
mhm,
somebody's
mhm,
angry, anything, same thing with working with animals, everything's a symptom, everything is the outcome of symptom. If someone
yeah,
is irate, if a child's super tired, same thing with the animal if they're super aggressive.
mhm,
It's all interrelated, and we're one ecosystem.
yeah,
We
yeah.
just all have the same basic needs if we really get down to it. And I
That's that
mean,
you learned that from Caesar. You learned that from Caesar. I know this.
yeah.
I've heard him say this.
It is. But you know what? I think it does. It all interrelates, because same
Mhm,
thing with teaching with children or working with families
sure.
and
Yeah.
rehabbing animals, right? Everything has
Mhm,
to go back to basics, because what I may be able to do with one child, I'm not going to be able to do with that other child. And same thing with animals and, different adults. I think,
what are those basics then? Like, what are these? I mean, because we all need to poop, eat, and sleep. Is that what it is?
right. I mean, really, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
basically, we all need shelter, right? We all
Mhm,
need food. All of that has to be met. Pavlov's law, basic
mhm,
needs of the hierarchy. What
mhm,
happens after that? Us as human kinds of species, we really need that connection. I mean, some of us might be more introverted, some of us might be extroverted, but
mhm,
it's finding out, how do we connect and how do we make that connection? Because we all want to feel wanted. We all want that sense of belonging. And that's the basic needs
mm,
of, starting any relationship or rapport. And I think
yeah.
part of, I think, like you said, I hear that a lot. People say, you're very approachable. I feel like you really get me. But
Yeah.
what I feel like I really do, that I don't know if everyone else does, is I drop expectations for people.
Mm,
I don't judge, and I just hear people out, because at the end of the day, whether someone's yelling or they're crying or they're just having that conversation, it's being heard, and knowing that that person really reciprocated and took in that information, whether it was a story, a complaint, needing
mhm,
advice, or just
mhm.
wanting to share. And
You
with
have a
children
very
as
good
well.
soul, right? So I mean, if I think that the listeners need to know that this is, again, it's been several years since we met. I want to say 2013, 2014, right?
Yeah,
2014
something
maybe.
about that.
So about 7 years. And um I I never had I never felt any judgment from you towards me or towards anybody, right?
Yeah.
And part of me is just like, I mean, you have all this understanding and knowledge behind it, which makes it very easy for, say, somebody listening to you now to think, oh, this is after years of just understanding. But I think what's happened is that now you have the vocabulary for it. But I think you've always
Right.
inherently been like this person, right? And maybe going back to your life experience growing up, um, do you think besides that, do you feel like a part of you has just always just kind of been like more soft and gentle? And do you feel like people have taken advantage of that?
Yeah, so actually
Mm,
I do get that, I think. And it's very interesting because when I was training, that was something that Caesar and I did talk about, is because he's
mm,
like, you do have a very soft energy. But
mhm.
that is what I prefer, right? Everything is
Yeah.
energy. But the thing is having the confidence to be able to change it when you need to, right? Being able
Mm,
to have that boundary, being able to be firm in your belief or your morals, values, to just know, like, if this is who I'm going to be and I'm going to carry this, then I need to make sure that I'm going to protect myself as well as having these boundaries. And it doesn't come easy. I mean,
mm.
you've seen my weight journey too. I mean, I've
Well,
had very,
yeah.
very high highs, very low lows. I think I've been every size in the book, 215 pounds to,
Mm,
80 pounds. And it's just really what makes you happy, what brings you joy when it comes down to it. And once you start
mhm,
having that love for yourself,
mhm.
people see it too. And they're
Yeah.
gonna be drawn to it. They're not gonna know why. Um
Yeah. I mean, so there's that's it's interesting that you mentioned that because I feel like I mean, one of my questions was going to be like you have a very infectious energy, right? So that's another quality I really adore about you. It's very easy to just feel like completely just high on life when one is around you. Um, but I feel like everyone kind of has some sort of damage, right?
right.
And we all cope with life and stresses in different ways, you know. What, in your opinion, like for you, what was that? And was maybe because you just mentioned it, the food, right? Was food kind of a comfort for
Right.
you and
Yeah.
kind of trying to process that damage?
Yeah, and
Okay.
so as far as damage, I mean,
Sorry to
I
use such
had
harsh
well,
wording.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see it because you know what,
Hmm.
I'm comfortable with it, and I feel like I've had that self-healing to where it's
Hmm.
not an offensive language. It's just a term, right? And it's good terms
Mm.
because it's what people really relate to.
Yeah.
But I went through a really, really abusive marriage, and
Mm.
unfortunately, my ex-husband was deployed and came back. He didn't want to get the help, and
Mm.
it ended in, I will say, he ended up, pretty much, I thought my life was going to end.
Sure.
It ended up at that point to where it
You were
was
in
like
physical danger.
I
Yeah.
was in physical imminent danger. I mean, I'm 5'1", he was 6'5.5". And
Well.
to be so scared to, like, I really had to, when we say like rehabilitate animals, I was that. I was so afraid to,
Mm.
even once I left him, I packed a duffel bag, left. The divorce gave him everything. I didn't
Yeah.
care. I was like, just give me my name. And I think from hitting that rock bottom
Mm.
was like, wow, you know what? There's only one way now, is up. Like, I've already done it. I left not knowing anything. I left my job, my home, my
Mhm.
car, he
Mhm.
stole money out of my bank account. Like, I literally had nothing.
Yeah.
And just to be at that such a vulnerable spot and
Mm.
starting to, have drinking, and then, like, okay, the drinking's not good for me, then I'm going to go to food because
Mm.
food's not valued at that type of an addiction, right? We
Right,
don't
because
feed
you
a
still have to eat it 3
society.
times a day
Right.
to survive.
And being Hispanic Latino culture, like, we
I'm just a little
celebrate
thicker, you
everything.
know?
Yeah. You get a job, you go eat, you have your kid gets good grades, you go eat,
You
grandma has a
celebrate with
birthday,
food.
you
Food's a big
eat.
part of
Everything's
culture.
food. And so
Mhm.
same thing, you're brought up like, oh, when you're sad, it's okay, like, you can eat. It's okay, eat. And
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
just start filling that hole with that, to the point where I made myself sick, not taking care of my body. I ended up
Really?
in ICU for a week, and then
Mm.
in and out of the hospital and being on so many medication. I was like, okay, these doctors are not helping me and
Mhm.
I need
Mhm.
help. And so it was really like making that changing point, like, of really starting that journey of self-love,
Yeah.
and starting with, like, you know what? I'm not going to work on being skinny. I'm not going to work on anything, but I'm just going to focus on eating healthier, right? And
Yeah.
just start from there. And it was like, literally, I'm going to make a goal of walking 10 minutes a day,
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
really just doing that and starting really in small increments so that it was something tangible. And then once I
Yeah.
met that goal, it was like, how can I celebrate for myself in a healthy way? And it was like, I'm going to do something for self-care, self-love, even if it
Mm-hmm.
was reading a book, being, putting a podcast on, staying up a little bit later, or waking up early and not feeling bad about it, and
Mm-hmm.
having that self-time, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's really just, it's a journey, and where it starts is, whatever is kind of like reflecting with you and what you're vibing with, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of, I mean, for one, rock bottoms are rough, right? I think
Yeah.
you saw me at mine at one point. You saw me mine. Hey.
Hey, there you go.
Well, you did. And it was, you know, you were so graceful in the whole thing, you know. But I think because you were so graceful, and I'm not blaming you or thanking you or anything like that, but I think a
Yeah.
big part of my journey was that time in my life. That time in my life was very defining, and you happen to be there. Little did I know, and I think I had an idea, but I was too caught up in myself to really realize that you were able to kind of be soft for me because had you had hit a bottom of your own, right?
Yeah.
And I appreciate that for one. But two, I think, and I've made amends to you, I think, at that point. But I think, I'm very apologetic about the fact that, like, I wasn't the most well put together human at that point in my
Yeah.
life, right? I didn't know any better, but it took a lot of kindness from people outside of my life to really kind of get me to a place where I wanted to be, right?
Right.
And it was, it is part of a journey, and it's unfortunate that some people have to reach that point, but I almost consider yourself and myself lucky enough to have been there,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because now we know what the
Right.
bottom looks like, right? And you
Yeah.
almost kind of
No.
take advantage of the fact that you're just like, okay, now I really don't have an excuse.
Yeah, there's no more excuses. It's like
Mm-hmm.
once you hit that, it's like it's all on you. There's
Mm-hmm.
no more pointing fingers. There's
Mm-hmm.
no more this. And I think that's when things get real. Like, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
the real work really begins, is like
Mm-hmm.
when you hit that point. And then I think it's also when you start accomplishing it. Like, what happens like when you've reached those goals, right? Like, how can
Mm-hmm.
you do better? And it's like, okay, now I hit this point. And I feel like the whole journey just kind of restarts again, because now
Mm-hmm.
you're at the top of what you wanted. So how do you further from there, right?
Yeah.
How do you do better? How do you keep going? And
Yeah.
I think it's almost harder because it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you can't see, and it ends up being almost scary because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
something so unknown that you're really going based off of the
Mm-hmm.
strength that you have and what you've been through. You're like, yeah, if I can get through that, it's
Yeah.
okay. Like anything's okay. I'm like, I have lost everything, being tight on money, it's okay. Paying a bill late, sometimes you're like, you know what,
Mm.
it's not the end of the world. Where before, having this perfectionist, and it was like everything has to be, but really it's just letting it go and having that
Mm-hmm.
self-judgment go for yourself. And I
Do you
think
feel
that's how
like you
we
were a
help one
perfectionist at
another.
one point? Do you feel like you were a
Oh yeah.
perfectionist?
Oh yeah,
Really?
I so was.
So, like, it goes
Always.
back into being in control and being flexible, right?
Right.
With the world. How much how much did letting go of the perfectionism really help you in find your happiness?
Oh my God. You know what? And it didn't happen, I'll be really honest, till like around November last year. So
Really?
it's been a
Okay.
while. Yeah. And when I say perfectionist, it was like I was the 4.0 student, I was the
Mm-hmm.
4.5, I was,
Mm-hmm.
doing sports in high school, and then I was going to college in high school. Like, who does that?
You were an
Like,
actor too.
yeah. And
Don't think we're not going to talk about that. That Kevin Bacon photo is on IMDb, folks. Okay. So
great.
yeah, also that, Anyways, continue. But you can't
um,
find her because it's a different name.
shh,
I know, I won't say it, but
that
continue.
those are some different days.
Uh-huh.
But it really is. And so I feel like having to really let go. I mean, there's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing quote, and it's like, once you let go of everything, you then can accept everything. And I
Yeah.
truly believe in that. And having, I mean, if you believe in astrology, the typical Virgo, I mean, that is
Yeah,
me.
you're
I
a
mean, I had to
Virgo.
clean my whole house before we even started this, you know? It was like everything has to be clean. It was like, you guys, I'm gonna
Control.
do some podcasts. Yeah. And it's, but
Yeah.
it's in a way, like it's still okay. Like I know that's my control, but
Mhm.
it's a healthy way, right? Like my control is having a clean environment, and I can't do
Yeah.
anything halfway. It has to be all or nothing. But in a way, I've re-channeled that too into being able to let go, right? So it's like it's not
Mm.
perfect, it's gonna be okay. And being able to, again, you have to just drop that judgment with yourself. And if you drop that judgment with yourself, you're just like, yeah, this is okay. It's like accepting, you know, it's like when kids
Mm.
make a mistake. And if you think back to the basis of when the child is learning to walk, nobody's like, yeah, you
Yeah.
fell. Like, you need to get back up. What are you doing? You took 2 steps and you fell down. What's wrong with you? You
Mhm.
know, we don't do that. And
Right.
we need to have that, like, I feel like that self inner child love almost like for our adult self. We need to be our inner cheerleader. We don't
Mhm.
do that with ourselves. You know, when our babies are walking and we cheer them on and they fall and we're like, it's okay, you can get up, let's try again. We have to
Yeah.
do that with us. And once we do that with us, it starts falling into place with everyone else. And you see people gravitate
Mhm.
to you. I mean, you
Mhm.
see the change, and it's like
Yeah.
it almost becomes your new addiction. It's pretty crazy. So it's like that becomes something you can, you know, rechannel. Like, is this my control thing? Oh, it is. Can I, you know, it's
Mhm.
still certain attributes and characteristics of me are never going to change. You know, same thing with you, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's like,
absolutely. Mhm.
it's
At
like
least my therapist tells
channeling.
me that. You know, like I'm always going to be an empathetic person, right? And
Right.
I mean, again, until recently, I'd gotten back into therapy during the pandemic, and I was like, I feel like I'm too empathetic. You know, I feel like I want to be more apathetic and care less because I have a lot of
Yeah.
feelings. And I think a big part of what I took away from that was the fact that like you need to be you're authentic to yourself. Like, dude, like
Yeah.
you, this is who you are. You know, for better or
Yeah.
for worse. So you need to be happy with who you are and be emotional and show love how you want to show love and be, you know, be you because you want to be this way as long as you're not people pleasing, right? But
Right.
do this and not, you know, not care about what others think about you, right? And being your
Right.
authentic self and really just kind of looking at myself through a different lens and realizing that this is who I am forever. I can
Exactly.
try to in a case by case basis, I can try to mitigate it and be like, okay, in this situation, is it really about me? Is it yada yada yada? But in reality, like at the end of the day, it's not about how I feel, it's about how I react, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be me for the rest of my life,
Exactly.
right? And that's, I mean, and that's, there's a radical self-acceptance that has to come with that, right? And there's a radical self-acceptance with the fact that like I have no control over anything but myself, right?
Yeah.
So me controlling the food I eat is not going to help. Me controlling how much exercise I do is not going to help because I'm going to have to live with myself forever. So might as well just kind of hang on for the ride and just go with the
Exactly.
flow, right?
Exactly. And at the end
Hmm.
of the day, and this, I don't mean to sound so morbid at this point, but it's like at the end of the day, we're just left with ourselves. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really, that's really what it is. At the end of the day, you can
Hmm.
have the most amazing relationship, you can have children, everything. But at the end of the day, we're human and we all have that self ego. And at the end of the day, we are left with who we are. And it's like, are
Mm.
we really genuinely happy with who we are?
Yeah.
You know, are you
Yeah.
that person? Are you okay with dating yourself? I mean, I think that was the
Hmm.
biggest thing is learning who you are. I mean, I've gone out, taken myself out to the movies, I've dined myself out, and I've
Hmm.
had that time where it was like, you know what, I actually enjoy this alone time, but
Hmm.
I also enjoy my social time. And
Yeah.
knowing that both of them are acceptable and they're okay, you know, and it's the
Mm.
biggest thing. But it's
Yeah.
two, it's having those seeds and weeds in your life, right? And you're being
Yeah.
that tree. And are
Mm.
you going to have, you know, some of those people, they're going to be deep roots in your tree. And some of those people, they may be seeds you plant And sometimes you don't know, they may pop up a beautiful plant and they're there to flourish and hang on. And sometimes you get to know them and they pop up and they're a weed and you kind of got to season them out, you know?
Yeah. Pull the weeds, man. Yeah, no,
You know,
absolutely.
and you
Absolutely.
really, and I feel like that's just life. You really have to just keep maintaining and just keep kind of, going
There's
through
no end.
things.
There's no end.
Right. Exactly.
You're always going to continue growing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Or you stay stagnant and you die, right? Emotionally, not physically, but like you
Right.
die emotionally,
Yeah.
right? You stay the same person. And I mean, I think you're a testament as, incarnate of a person who's never stopped changing. I mean, you still are who you are, but like as far as what you do, right? You went I mean, was it the move that shifted you from New Mexico to California that shifted your career path, or were
You
you
know
just tired? You
what?
taught for so long.
Yeah, it was just kind of like I had worked with children and family for so long. I
Mm-hmm.
had done early intervention to being a director of a center to,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had even started working for a bigger chain and I was, starting to travel, helping
I
them with
remember
their
this.
hiring and marketing. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it branched out so big. And it was like, in the end, I was like, what is there left? Like
Mm-hmm.
after this, I hit a certain point and it was like, what else is there? Like I
Mm-hmm.
could literally, the way I see children and families is how, Cesar Milan can identify a dog within seconds. I can tell with a child what's going on or what are they
Mm-hmm.
needing, any of
Mm-hmm.
that. If they're needing some type of red flag, I can identify it, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah, we need this, 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 this. Okay, but what else can I add on to it? And it was
Yeah.
really at a turning point. So it was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I love animals. I've always done this. The psychology has to be pretty similar. And so I made the switch and I was like, I had a trainer. His name was Yoa, and he was
Mm-hmm.
from Puerto Rico. He's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. He has an incredible program still
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And he was like, you need to write a goal. He's like, what's the goal going to be? And I was like, I want to be a dog trainer. And he was like, well, what about it? And he was like, I'm going to be able to bridge the gap between humans and dogs. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to help families with their children by using their dogs to
Mm-hmm.
help. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be kind of like a trade off. They're going to learn about their children and dogs through each other. And these parents are going to be able to have more acceptance and be a little bit more educated. So that way there's more of a harmony inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like, he was like, that's some big shoes to fill. And I'm like, yep. He's like, what's your timeline? I'm like, it's going to be 3 years. And I gave him the timeline.
Okay.
And so I did training Cesar's way for 2 weeks. I was able to start volunteering at the ranch because he saw, pretty much my experience with children was what he was needing at the ranch, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing the curriculum and what I implemented, it basically transfers over. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing, they were like, you talk too much. And so having with children, you're used to this dialogue, so I
Right.
hear you. Yep. I see your body's this. And you're literally talking children through, giving them the verbiage, giving them the
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary, to where
Mm-hmm.
animals, I'm like,
They
what do
don't
you mean
understand.
I'm not going to use my words? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've worked with children who are deaf, and
Mm.
really understanding though what happens when you take away language and you take away communication skill, to where they're like, and all you're going to have is this leash, and it's a slip lead, like it looks like a piece of rope, and it was like, now you're going to get the dog to walk, sit, do this, this, and this. And he was like, show me. And it was like,
How
okay.
do
And
I
the
do it
dog
without
lays
words?
down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the dog lays down and I'm like, what the heck do I do? Right. So really, like I said, he stripped me of everything, took me to basics. And it was like, wow. It was like, how powerful now can I
Mm-hmm.
be,
Mm-hmm.
knowing this knowledge of having to really observe and obsess to take it in, to learn. Now I have to translate that into words, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to teach people. And
That's
that in
amazing.
itself was a
Mm-hmm.
challenge,
Mm-hmm.
because chickens, ducks, emus,
Yeah,
pygmy
all of
goats,
it.
llamas,
Your Instagram was
donkeys.
amazing because you just add a
Thank you.
different animal every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's really crazy. Like all these animals, they're animals and they're just different
Mm.
species. But I really had to change who I was coming onto these animals because I could be a threat. I could set them off. I mean, yes, they're all rehabilitated, but we know with rehabilitation, there has to be a maintenance of something, maintained of structure. Otherwise, those triggers can, you know, have them come out of the rehabilitation and need to, you know, kind of implement some more structure and go back to basics. And so really understanding that really changed my personification of how I was viewing people in the world too, right? So it was like, I have to really change who I am for when I'm talking to people and how I communicate and how I come across and how I teach. Because before, my opinion was, oh, this is me, this is who I am. People don't like it. You know, you see all those quotes for trying to be inspiring, and it's like, oh, you don't like me who I am now, you don't like me, you'll never like me, and you know, you don't like how I talk, then you're just not for me. And it's really like, but that's not being fair to others at the end of the day. And that's really like more ego, self-motivated, that, you know. And so it was really like, if I change my way towards the person I'm speaking to based on their energy or mannerisms, characteristics, however people want to say it, it's different verbiage, and pretty much it's all the same thing, right? So it's like, if I change how I come onto that person, how is my outcome going to come? You know, if I go to a cash register and I see somebody, she's stressed out and she's just trying to get through it, and, you know, she's being short with me, I'm like, you know what? I really appreciate you. You look like you've had a long day. I'm like, thank you for taking the time with me. And it's like, just doing that and seeing that person, and they're just like, whoa, okay, I thought this person was going to complain. They're used to that. It really changes the person. And sometimes we don't know that maybe we're that one person in their day that made that difference, you know. And especially with the pandemic and quarantine, I mean, so many people have gone through so much, and I think I've seen probably the most clientele pick up during quarantine. I mean, I'm so blessed to have,
because everyone got a dog.
Right, exactly. And we had technology, which was amazing, to a whole nother level, to where I was able to do, you know, information over the internet and all of that, and doing Zoom. But really seeing, you know, some people, they had lost everything, and this dog was their one last hope, and this dog is gnawing at their arm, and they're like, I love you, Fido, and it's chewing on them, and they're just in this utter mess of tears of like, what do I do? I have nothing. I have this, I want it, I don't know. And so for them to understand, even just calming themselves down, and it's like, okay, now let's look at where that dog is at. Sometimes that's all it takes, right? And so I feel like just being an animal behaviorist in general, and working with children, you know, if you want to call it like child behaviorist, whatever it is, it's just really taking that moment and that space, right? But still understanding your boundaries. What are, you know, what are your things that you're just going to cut it, making sure people don't take advantage of you. You know, it's all interrelated though. And at the end of the day, we want this nice utopian society, right? Everyone wants to be, you know, valued and equal and at the same level. But at the same time, we've seen that, and that creates communism, right? But what if we look at it at a different way? Instead of saying like, yeah, this utopian society is going to be where we all are able to like very much see each other for who we are at face value, drop that expectation and judgment of what we have, and just take this person in for who we are and who they are, and really just connect for that minute or two and see what happens, you know? And sometimes, I mean, I guarantee you, if you are fighting in your house, go 2 weeks without talking to everyone. See what happens in your family. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to laugh. Something's going to happen. I mean, dynamics change.
It's just natural.
It's insane. So it's really interesting, but everything is just so interrelated. And again, like we started off, like it all starts with us, right? Because if we're not at that place, if we're not feeling good, taking care of our bodies, I mean, even just filling yourself up with water, like, man, that was hard. We're 80% of it. And if we think about stuff like that, you know, we get stuck every day being on LA and going through this rigor mortis, like 7 days a week. I mean, literally, I work pretty much almost every day, and forgetting to, you know, really think like, hey, my body's 80%. I really only have probably a quarter of a jug, like I need to get something in me, and like you feel better, and you just forget. So it's again,
Yeah.
everything back to basics, right?
Back to basics, right? Because that's, as long as those things are those needs are met, you can start to work on the rest, right? But if you don't have
Right.
those, then you can't really, you have no platform or foundation to stand on. That makes sense.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
you moved, so you recently moved? You're in Arizona?
So, well, we're hoping. So we sold our house in
Mm-hmm.
LA,
Mm-hmm.
in Arizona, and I mean, I built a pretty good clientele, you know, in LA, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
celebrity clientele. But again, I'm ready for the change, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Arizona is something new. It's exciting. The vibe is different. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like home away from home. I feel like it's the best worlds, like best of Albuquerque meets kind of like a LA city vibe
You
here.
got palm
I
trees,
have
yeah.
my palm, exactly. It's what I need, my palm trees. And
Mm-hmm.
there's water and lakes. I mean, it's amazing. And where else can you teach somebody to treadmill train their dog and the benefits of it and the
Mm-hmm.
stimulation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be something new, exciting, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited and to focus kind of like on something different of a little strategy. So we'll see what
Of
it has
course.
to come.
Do you consult online and stuff
I
still?
do. So
Okay.
I do. So a lot of ways that I get business is mostly through Instagram, and people contact me through there.
Okay.
And from there, we kind of just chat it out. I mean, some people,
Mm-hmm.
they need a huge consultation and they really need a plan. And some people just need questions. So
Gotcha.
what I like to do is I base it based, again, like how we base it on dogs. I base, you know, what I do around like the client's needs. And I really like to gear my training so
Mm-hmm.
that it fits the client's lifestyle, because that's what they're going to want. It's not my lifestyle. I'm not bringing your dog home. You know, if you're okay with your dog being excited when you come home and that's what you want, that's great. You know, if somebody, you know, wants something else, it's great because it's what they're wanting, right? As long as they
Gotcha.
have the understanding. So same thing
Mm-hmm.
for all the appointments and all of that I do for everybody.
What's your handle on Instagram so people can find you?
Awesome. It's Aubrey Marie Official.
Mm-hmm.
And they can go ahead and DM me, ask me questions. I'm pretty open. You can watch my stories. I post a lot of animals and some
Yes, you
pretty
do.
interesting things going on.
Yeah, yeah. I see you and your dog and riding your bike, all this stuff. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
and then if you're listening, I couldn't speak higher of this individual, right? So as
Oh,
you've heard
thank
this whole
you.
podcast, great to work with. I mean, I've trusted my own kids with her at a very young age. So I mean, I'm sure you can trust your dogs, and well trained, as you can tell by the best. And so I think it's good to have you on. You know, I really appreciate you coming on. It's good to
Oh, thank
connect again.
you.
But
Yeah.
also, you know, I think you've always had this wonderful story, and it's great to be able to kind of give you a platform to share it. So I'm happy. I'm happy that you did come on here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I love seeing you. And anytime.
Of course, of course. So I'm going to hit pause here. We'll debrief afterwards. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Remember that we love you. We'll talk to you later. Bye.